It is time for the 2023 series previews. Man, it's the fourth batch of series previews and playoffs that I've covered over the course of the history of this channel. And we are starting with the Eastern Conference today. We have the Boston Bruins versus the Florida Panthers as our first series to talk about. Now, the last time these two teams played in the playoffs, they only played once, and that was in 1996 when the Florida Panthers won that series 4-1, and when they were en route to go to the Stanley Cup Finals. In fact, in their third season as well. So it's been a while since these teams have played in the playoffs, nearly 30 years, and obviously their teams are completely different. So we're going to start off with the Bruins here. Boston having an historic season, first in the NHL by a mile. 65, 12, and 5, which is a new wins record. 135 points, which is a new points record. 305 goals scored, 177 goals against. They are 34, 4, and 3 at home, and they didn't lose at home until late November. And then they were 31, 8, and 2 on the road. So, they are an elite team. There's no question about it. The way they play is just amazing. They got guys contributing on all levels. All four lines can roll a really solid hockey. And then as well as that too, they can sit out a defender that would be a top six defender on any other playoff team because just how deep they are as of right now. This is honestly the best shot the Bruins have at making it to a Stanley Cup. And honestly, this could be it. If there was a team in years that I've seen since I started watching hockey about 6 seasons ago, and that's not a big time sample, but if there's a Boston Bruins team that I could say, yeah, they're definitely this is definitely the best year to win it, it's this year 100%. Hands down, this team should go at least past the second round 100%. If not, it's failure, honestly. On the Panthers end, they honestly, and this is interesting, these are genuinely two teams that when you look standings-wise, they more or less just swapped from last season. Last season, the Bruins, I believe they were in a second wildcard spot, but they were a first wildcard spot. They were still a wildcard team nonetheless. And the Panthers were in the Bruins position. They were first in the NHL. They were scoring at an alarming rate. Things were getting really interesting. And then they pretty much swapped spots. They both had big off seasons, and they just swapped places, which I thought was pretty interesting to keep in mind here. The Panthers, 42, 32, and 8 for 92 points. They have scored 290 goals and have led in 273. They are 23, 13, and 5 at home, and 19, 19, and 3 on the road. So that is very significant there. I will keep that in mind of how the Panthers, they are 500 on the road this season. And you look at a Bruins team that they've only lost 4 games in regulation at home, 3 in extra time. They're going to be a difficult team to play in Boston, 100%. And on that game on Monday, it's going to be extremely interesting to see, what the Panthers' plan is really going to be when it comes to playing this Bruins team, because they're a good team, and there's no question about it. And they're going to have to play the hardest hockey they've ever played, to be honest with you. You look at their two leading scorers apart from each other. You start off with David Pastrnak. 82 games played, 61 goals, 52 assists for 113 points. He is having himself an elite season with the Boston Bruins. There's no question about that. His previous goal total was like 48, and now he has 61 goals. So he's broken his career total by almost 20. And it's crazy to think that we had 2 60 goal scorers in the same season. Still blows my mind. But yeah, Pastrnak, amazing player. The Panthers are definitely going to have to really watch out for this guy. On the other end, though, you got Matthew Tkachuk, who, coming from the Flames in the offseason, I had my doubts about Florida making the playoffs, honestly. They are better off long-term because Tkachuk's going to have maybe not this good of a season next year, but he's still going to be a really solid player with 79 games played, 40 goals, 69 assists for 109 points. Again, 2 really solid forwards here. And like Tkachuk, a lot more, and I know this Bruins fans might not agree with this, but Tkachuk has a lot more value to the Panthers than Pastrnak does to the Bruins. You may heavily disagree with that. You can take me on in the comment section down below. I won't really blame you. But Tkachuk, if it weren't for him, Panthers will make playoffs. hands down. If it weren't for him, Panthers are in the playoffs, Sabres are in the playoffs, and we're seeing a Boston Sabres first round matchup, 100%. Because you look, I mean, unless if they still have their same core, but that's not possible. But yeah, Kachuk absolutely carried. You look at the gap between him and the secondary goal scorer, and that's Alexander Barkov. There's almost a 40-point gap between the two. So that just goes to show how significant of a player just Kachuk is to this Panthers team. And he definitely doesn't get enough recognition for that. You look at your secondary scorers. You got Patrice Bergeron against Alexander Barkov. So I thought I'd compare those two together because you got two pretty solid defensive centers. Bergeron winning the Selke multiple times and Barkov coming up close a few times. Bergeron, 78 games played, 27 goals, 31 assists for 58 points. Realistically, this is likely going to be either the last season that the Bruins are going to have Bergeron on this core or one of the last seasons that they're going to have Bergeron with this team because Bergeron's getting up there in age. There were those looming rumors of whether or not Bergeron was going to stick with the team this coming this coming season. Obviously, he did end up staying with the team, so that rhetoric is gone. But it's still something to keep in mind. Obviously, as the playoffs roll along here. And as for Barkov, he's missed some time, 68 games played, 23 goals, 55 assists, 78 points. Missing about 20 games of the season and still, putting up an 80-point season is still really solid. And it goes to show how underrated of a center that Barkov really is. He does not get enough recognition that he deserves, 100%. The next guys that I want to compare are Brad Marchand and Connor Verhaeghe. Marchand this season, 73 games played, 21 goals, 46 assists for 67 points. Marchand, again, that grit player that can also play really good offensively. I think that's going to play a key role in this series. It's going to be physical. It's going to be hard-hitting, 100%. And I think it will be a very enjoyable series, even though it could be a dominant series overall. For Carter Verhaeghe, 81 games played, 42 goals, 31 assists for 73 points. You look at those 42 goals, Verhaeghe, with all the players that left this year, Huberdeau, Reinhart, Giroux, all those guys that left, or Reinhart, who was the other guy that left? There was another forward that left, I can't think. Reinhardt's still in the team. But yeah, Huberdeau and Giroux both left, and Verhaeghe's gotten that opportunity to rise up into the lineup and get a solid shot here, and he's done really well, scoring 42 goals. I think his earlier one was 28, so definitely a really solid amp up in this season for Verhaeghe, and it's going to be really interesting. Now, the goaltending is where it's kind of a large gap. I mean, you could argue that a lot of these are pretty even. However, the goaltending is a gigantic gap. You got Linus Ullmark, 49 games played, 46-1, a 1.89 goals against average, and a .938 save percentage. Goes to show he is an amazing goalie, and you'd think that with Boston's defense, that plays a big role. But Ullmark also faces, and I saw this stat earlier, he also is up there in goalies that face the most shots per game. And the Bruins are also up there in most shots allowed per game. So that goes to show that, yeah, they have a good defense, but it also shows that Ullmark is a really good goalie. And this season should not be written off as, the Bruins have a great goaltending tandem, or Bruins have a great, defense, and no, he's being foreshadowed by that. No, I think of him as Vasilevsky this year. Tampa has a great defense, but Vasilevsky is a better goalie. That's honestly how I feel about it with the Boston Bruins. On the other end, you got Sergei Bobrovsky. I'm a little bit with this because Alex Lyon has been red hot. There is a possibility that he could start game one. I don't know for sure. So there is that possibility. But Bobrovsky this season, 50 games played, 24, 20, and 3, a 3.07 goals against average, and a .901 save percentage. Of course, that's been the talk that Bobrovsky could get moved out this offseason. And honestly, depending on what happens in the playoffs, that very well could happen. Honestly, I feel like that could be something that could be in the books for Florida. The problem is, though, they don't have assets. And that's the thing that I've said with Florida millions of times. They don't have assets, and that's the problem with them. But yeah, if I were to compare those, I would say Pastrnak over Tkachuk, Marchand or Bergeron over Barkov, Marchand over Verhaeghe, or I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm going to say Verhaeghe over Marchand, at least for this season, because Verhaeghe has been more valuable to the Panthers 100%. And then as well as that too, Olmark over Vasilevsky or Vasilevsky, Bobrovsky, Vasilevsky, Bobrovsky, very similar names. There's no question there. I mean, to be honest, people are going to say this is going to be a dominant series, Bruins in 4, this and that. I don't think so. I think this won't be a walk in the park for Boston. I really don't think. This isn't the easiest team you'll play. The East is so stacked that, I mean, you had 3 pretty solid teams miss the playoffs. And that just goes to show. In 4 matchups this year, and this elaborates my point even more about how, this could not be a close series. They're tied. The season series is 2-2. On October 17th, Boston won 5-3. On November 23rd, Florida won 5-2. On December 19th, Boston dominated 7-3. And then on January 28th, the Panthers won in overtime 4-3. So that goes to show that the season series is even. That may not play a role in playoffs. That could be a whole video. But still, that definitely plays some kind of a role in, when you think about it, these teams could be more even than you think. So my final prediction. I've been saying a lot that this won't be a walk in the park for Boston and Florida will hang on in this series. However, I still have Boston winning this one in 6 games. So that's my final prediction. Boston will move on to the second round. Anyways, I just can't see any team beating Boston. And I don't know. I have that feeling in the back of my mind that there could very well be an upset here, and it would be a huge upset if it did happen. But also, I'm thinking, the Bruins were so dominant this year, and they were more dominant than Tampa in 2019, and that's kind of what I refer back to with this. I said that, nobody's beating Tampa, but somebody beat Tampa. So, but the thing is, the difference between them and the Bruins team is that the Bruins just seem more dominant in the games that they play. That's the biggest thing. So, yeah, we'll see. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on the console. Thank you all very much for watching. For all your support, I really do appreciate it. We got 3 more previews to go for today. So this is the early preview, 10 a.m. Eastern time. So have fun with this, guys. We're going to have a lot of videos coming out today. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.